Good afternoon. Grab yourself a glass of water. We'll be starting shortly. It's great to see you all here. Thank you very much for coming. Good afternoon. It's great to see you all once again for another event on our Gen AI series, although less on the AI this time, but it all does kind of stick together. So please stick with me. Thank you very much for joining this afternoon. Can I get a quick thumbs up or just a quick check on the screen just to make sure you can all see the top slide here, which is a pretty tree with sunlight coming through it and a deer in the background, because you can't talk about the environment without having a nice picture like this. Now, it's key that you are aware there's a lot of greenwashing around and a lot of these types of pictures around. But hopefully you can see that. But if you could just let me know in the chat window, that would be awesome. Cool. Thank you. Okay, so we are here today to talk about Eco IT and Microsoft's commitment to environmental stewardship. And there's a few things actually I'd like to talk about before we go into all of that, because let's start off with our usual housewarming and keeping stuff. Feel free to drop your name in the chat and where you are from. It'd be great to hear that from you. As always, we are all human beings. The last time I checked, robots haven't taken over the world, but this is a recorded session. Let's respect each other. Feel free to come off of mute and engage with the conversations if you want to, and type away on the chat windows as well. This is a safe learning zone. We're not going to go into anything too technical today, but this is kind of the last of our initial series that we were playing out over the last 12 weeks. So the kind of closure of this part of it and the start of something new as we move into the spring. And that safe learning zone will continue. And we'll be going into some more practical elements about how you parameterize some of the solutions that we've talked about and get those up and running in your organizations and get value out of them nice and quickly. This is me. You know me by now, but if you don't, then feel free to check out my LinkedIn profile. And more importantly, let's chat at the end of this call. And there's a QR code where you can book a call with me and we can discover together what the future looks like for your particular areas of success. So this is today. I'm going to talk a little bit from my background as an environmental scientist many years ago at the University of Southampton around my fears and the opportunities for the future. And I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but then we're going to go into the essentially revealing Microsoft's commitment to the planet and what they are doing around that. And I'm going to take you on a journey on this approach where we're talking about the environmental piece and my studies and how I got introduced to that, and some succinct science around this area as well, in terms of what you should probably know around why this is important, and then weaving this together with the technology angles and giving you some real practical tips as we go through this around how you can make an impact yourselves today. But I want to talk about this chap first of all. So, yes, many years ago, around 20 odd years ago, I was at the University of Southampton studying environmental sciences. And that essentially is geology, geography, biology, ecology, all sorts of things, right? Because the planet is a mix of all sorts of things and they all do things. They all have knock-on effects. It's a bit like a big coding system. And this chap, Mark Linus, has succinctly put together a rather worrying outlook, which is driven, I must add here, by science and peer-reviewed science. So, you know, scientists, those people that got us to where we are with all the technology, healthcare, and all the great things that we benefit from in a developed society, those people, well, he's taken all of the information, brought it together, and actually given us a vision, although it's not a very nice one, of what happens. I say, what happens when the world moves from 1 degree of warming, which sounds like a nice day at the beach, through to 5 degrees of warming. And you can see here, and it's got a book. I don't get any royalties out of this, but I thought it was a really good book in terms of outlining what's essentially going to happen. And we are heading towards 2 degrees and 3 degrees. So we can expect some pretty big challenges. And that is why what we're talking about today is important, because we can get rid of our plastic straws and all those sorts of things, but we need to make a fundamental shift in how we are doing business today versus how we are going to do business tomorrow. Because if you haven't started already, it's really quite important that you do. And you know, yesterday was the best day to do it, and tomorrow can equally be as valid. But to start this, and it doesn't need to be difficult, and that's what I really want to get through as part of this. Now, let's just chat about good governance, right? Now, there was this great institution, because after the Second World War, there'd been a lot of problems. So lots of the good people around the world all got together and sought a solution to stop this happening again. And our great friends in America, along with our great friends in Europe, created something called the World Bank. And it was really through these mechanisms that we started to reconstruct what the world looked like for the better. And the World Bank came up with a phrase around governance and what good governance is. And you can see that on the screen. And the reason that I'm talking about good governance is because it really should frame what we are doing as businesses. And there's some great frameworks for doing this. You know, there's the International Standards Organization and our ISO 14001 as an example, or integrated management systems in 9001, or there's the European Framework for Quality Management, or there's the B Corp accreditation. So there's a number of ways and frameworks that we can achieve good governance, which it says here, the manner in which power is exercised in the management of a country's economic and social resources for development. But I would argue that this, as I say, does apply to business as well. And good governance is the heart of a development agenda. And the development agenda is kind of important to what we're talking about, because great institutions like the United Nations are not perfect, because no institution is, but its intent, its ideology, it's all there. Institutions like that can use this this framework as part of their development agenda, but they've also got the 17 sustainable goals. You know, this is about how we can create a sustainable economy, how we can move forwards with the same quality of life that we've been used to, and ways that we can make changes. So there's 17 of those goals. I urge you to check those out. But at a company level, when we're thinking about what all this looks like and what we can do to help the planet, then we can start to look at other frameworks as well. And if you're in Europe, you've got the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and things which you need to do from a compliance angle. Now, what Microsoft have done is some pretty cool things, actually. So let's get rid of that doom and gloom stuff and take a look at how this is structured. Now, Microsoft, a big vendor. There's lots of other big vendors out there, suppliers. And ultimately, when we're talking about the cloud, it's not up there, although it is. And above those clouds, there's always a blue sky. It's actually a data center. It's a data center. It lives in multiple places around the planet and in secure places where you are unlikely to get as much disruption as perhaps if you chucked it in the middle of a volcano. You know, these are in places which have been geographically chosen for a level of security. Now, there's a nice little diagram here, and I know you're urging me to click on these blobs, but you can if you want. We're not going to do this too much today, but it is quite exciting. You can click on the blobs, and it tells you around the carbon usage of a particular data center, because ultimately, when you're using cloud tools, they're running somewhere, right? You haven't got those big machines in the background of your office humming away, and you know, people going into that room and doing stuff on a regular basis to that hardware. All of that shifts somewhere else, and in this case, a Microsoft data center, and we can navigate around that data center and take a, you know, what it looks like. But essentially, this is just providing that governance layer to link through there around the security standards, physical security standards, because obviously cloud's one thing, but people can still get around physical security. So you do need to think about these things, but it's all there within these data centers. And also, we've got this, which is a fantastic environmental sustainability report. And it was interesting because I was in the pub last week, and there's this great event which runs, I think it's international now, actually, but it runs around the UK, certainly, and it's called People, Planet and Pint. And without wanting to make you all into alcoholic soft drinks are available, you get a free pint, right? And you turn up, and there's this great community of people who are all interested in making some positive impacts and changes in the world. And I was talking to this person, and you know, it wasn't known. It wasn't known what Microsoft do on this front. It was just, you know, it's Microsoft, and yeah, they got M365 and Teams and this sort of thing. But actually, one of the reasons which I've actively directed my business endeavors down the Microsoft route and my personal learning, because I know that in the background, my guilt levels as an environmental scientist are pretty low, because Microsoft have this entire commitment to sustainability. And if we start to look into some of the facts, and you can go into this at depth, but I'm just going to sort of skim read over. Now, a lot of this is you know, directly aligned with the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and the scope of your emissions. And you can see here all of their measurements around greenhouse gas emissions, their carbon offsets, what type of mix they are using for their energy consumption. And it goes into this in some depth. And I think there was some, just to call out a few bits, obviously got it by region, by market as well. But this was interesting because I've been a bit of a data geek. Sometimes do like some numbers for analytics more. But when Fabric, you know, Power BI is running on its data centers and it's using energy because someone's got to do the energy, and even if you've got a remote business, fully remote, you know, likewise, then you've still got some energy. You know, we all are consumers as workers, consuming energy to fuel this. So you're kind of just shifting things around in some extent by using Microsoft in the cloud and their energy consumptions. But the great thing about that, of course, is that we've got all these measurements here that can really help us through. And I mean, this was interesting. So look at the financial years over these past few years. We've got these non-renewables. So they're still using oil and gas and things like this. But we can see there that it was going down. So the last few years it's gone down. Then it's gone up a little bit. Yeah, so it's crude oil and diesel's gone. That's not great, Microsoft. Need to make more improvements. It's where my brain immediately went to with that one. But on the positive note, you look at actually the renewable consumption, and that is increasing all the time there. And Microsoft have got some pretty cool commitments actually in terms of what they're doing. So they aren't talking about just becoming carbon neutral, but they're talking about getting rid of all of the carbon emissions which they've generated since they first started and becoming things like water positive, because these data centers, they do tend to have a lot of water needs, which might seem a bit strange, but there's a lot of cooling needs. You've got to keep people fed and watered and all of those sorts of things too. So what you've got here is some really good levels of governance around how you can actually dive into all of this yourself. And obviously, if you are fully using the cloud, then you can reflect on this in terms of your own reporting as well, and it's all kind of done for you, and you know exactly where your supplier is moving in terms of its effort to make sure we don't end up in some of these dire situations over here, but actually make an opportunity out of it and drive forward positive change, increasing the number of renewables, increasing the number of solutions. So there was this really cool thing which I saw a number of months ago. Now Microsoft are investing, I think it's in 4th generation nuclear, which tends to be a bit more stable. But this other technology was around carbon sequestration. So not just planting trees, but actually sucking that carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and quantifying that as part of a significantly larger scheme than we've seen elsewhere. And it's those types of solutions which we can start to bring to the fore, particularly as we run at parallel, putting the best of AI, machine learning out there, empowering people on the planet. And we start to see things like robotics coming online. So I thought some of these things were quite interesting in terms of the detail there. You can really go into it, and it goes on for pages and pages. But as I say, going back to levels of transparency and the types of things that you see going on around the whole environment, social and governance area, ESG, it all links back to this. And no matter what the rhetoric and conversations playing out, the reality is that a number of different markets across the world have committed to change on a positive note and sustainable development, and are moving towards making those positive impacts in their business and measuring it and doing these types of reports as well. So the ball is rolling and it needs to roll quicker, I guess is the message there. Now, there is this nice tool which Microsoft provide. And we sort of just go back to presentation quickly, kind of thinking about what can you do today? And I've often reflected on this in my life, and I'm pretty sure that if everyone was to change their pension and energy supplier overnight worldwide, we would create huge market disruption, and the world will change overnight. But the reality is that isn't going to happen, or maybe it will, who knows? But what you can do, and we think about this in terms of like your circle of control, what you can do within your personal things, actually your pension and those sorts of things probably are, your circle of influence, you can influence, and the circle of concern, i.e. those things which you might see on the news, the big picture items, which you can't really do much about as an individual, but you know might be able to do something, but it stays out there on the periphery. You can certainly do some of those things within your circle of control and circle of influence. Eco IT, you know, you can move your IT to more eco-friendly providers and check them out. Check out who your suppliers are. Check out their transparency and you know what they're doing to make the world a better place. I would suggest people like B1G1. Well, we've partnered with them and we're making a difference across all sorts of different areas. And there'll be an opportunity. We invite you to come along that journey with us as well. Partners like Women in Cloud, where they're trying to provide economic empowerment to roughly the 50% of the other 50% of humanity on the planet, and helping people there. And we've got some links around that too. From a Microsoft perspective, we go back to technology again, because that's what we do. We talk about technology on these calls. You've got this emissions impact dashboard, and this is free to use. You know, you've got an app for Azure and an app for Microsoft 365. And you can go into those apps, and they will give you an overview essentially of your emissions. So kind of like if you use a mathematical formula on all of the stuff that we've seen on the report, you know, what does that actually look like if we take your small slice of the pie in terms of your usage for Azure, which is a cloud-based service, where you get things like Dynamics, etc., and Microsoft 365, where your Microsoft Teams lives. And even your maybe your Microsoft 365, what was Office, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and all of those things. You can download those for free, and you can get some quite cool dashboards actually, which can contribute to your own reports. And I know if you're a small to medium sort of business, you might not have to do some of these things under a compliance umbrella. But it is good governance to do something around these things, because we all need to play our part, essentially, in making things a lot better for generations that come after ourselves. That is kind of a few tips and tricks which I wanted to share with you today as we sort of wrap up this 12-week part of the series, and then start to think about what we're going to focus on for your business success, the spring going on into the summer, and picking up again on some of the tools which we've looked at and helping you set up those various things, which will spin off into courses and those sorts of things too. Any questions? I'm going to stop talking, which is unusual for me, and take a drink of water. And if it's your opportunity to come off mute. If anyone wants to talk about anything, any thoughts, please put it into the chat window as well if you want to. It's okay not to talk as well, so that's fine. What I would like to do though is just to invite you to jump back to my presentation again. There we go. I'd just like to thank you. Grateful once again to spend time with you today, whether it's the morning, afternoon, or night, depending where you're watching from in the world. We can chat further, discover the solution that you need for your business success, experience the impact of it, and experience the impact of EcoIT and positively impact some amazing projects as well. And that QR code will provide you with a link to set up a quick chat with myself. We can go through your particular scenario and understand a bit more, but more importantly, there's an opportunity here for you to also make a positive impact and make a donation to one of the projects which you get access to via that link there. So I would encourage you to get your phones out and put up on screen and check that out if you can. I promised I'd talk about Women in Cloud a little bit more. In terms of their community and the network which they've set up to enable economic access to women and using cloud technologies across the world, there's an invite there. It's open to obviously women and allies that really want to help that agenda. And on the left-hand side there, we've also got a quick code where you can make an impact yourself, protecting 5 square meters of forest from wildfire, giving 5 days of medical protection to street dogs in Nepal, or you can also choose to give 3 days of life-changing access to clean water for children. So please use those codes. Please help us make an impact. You can check out how we're doing with our impacts on the Lightrise Consulting website, where we've got a big impact dashboard, and you will see the tiled thing that we've got there, and those are relatively live, I believe. So you can check it out, use the QR codes, and probably watch that at the same time. But I would like to thank you again for coming along today, and hopefully look forward to seeing you on the next 12-week cycle of events, which we're putting together for yourselves to make your business a success in 2025. Let's say, let's chat further, grab 15 minutes with me, and we can really discover the solutions that you need and understand the experience of EcoIT to make a positive impact on projects in your business. And I would encourage you to take us up on that opportunity. Thank you once again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you all again in the future. Take care. Speak soon.